We'll begin with a special meeting of the Cunningham Township Board, and that'll be followed immediately by the regular meeting of the City Council Committee of the Whole. That'll be chaired by Eric Sachs. So I would like to call to order this meeting of the Cunningham Town Board. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustees Wu,
Here.
Sachs,
Here.
Percy,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Roberts,
Here.
Colebrook,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Chair Marlin,
Here.
and Danielle Chenoweth.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is public participation. If anyone wishes to address the Cunningham Town Board, please raise your hand. Grace Wilkin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. My name is Grace Wilkin. I'm an Urbana resident. And I just wanted to say in support of this budget proposal that I had seen in the email, and if anything, just to state that I would love to see even more resources for housing and community assistance, particularly with some of the line items that are direct funding, like emergency access funding, transition housing, public services. I would love to see more funding if possible for those direct services, and definitely support the spending and would love to see even more. Thank you.
Okay. And I believe those comments would be directed toward the action plan, which is on the Committee of the Whole agenda, but those will be noted as well. Thank you. Next up is James Corbin.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to concur a lot with what Grace said as far as the funding go, as far as the direct funding and the transitional housing. And I would like to add a piece to address the youth violence we have been seeing in our neighborhoods. We have been, we see it's on the rise, and we need more programs that can adhere to this, such as strengthening youth skills, that type of program. We could look at universal school-based programs, also programs that help them build their skill level in the trades. We could also look at creative protective community environments. And this, I'm reading this actually from the CDC, which is recommended off their page of preventing youth violence. And a strategy or approach that we could use would be to modify the physical and social environment. And we could also reduce exposure to community level risk. And I think that's a big one that we need to kind of focus on, if we could direct some of the funds toward that. And just tying these guys into more positive things that they could do with the activities. One of the biggest problems I see in this community is there are no activities for the youth. We need to create some activities, something where they could socialize on a positive level, as well as get them involved with more community things. Maybe they could come up with some ideas and start building toward things. We used to have talent shows, as well as other shows in the community, that can like put their talents on display. We have some wonderful talent here, but it's not being utilized. It's not being put on the platform. It's just laying there, and then we keep going over the same thing of somebody got shot this week, or there's been a shooting. We have to put more money and resources toward these type of programs that could help. And we have groups already out here that are trying to do that, but they need help doing that. They need, it takes money to do these things, to bring in speakers, talkers. We can even bring in different entertainers to kind of sway a lot of this thinking. I would just like us to consider that. And also I would like to add, also have an educational component to this, because I have personally been experienced street violence. I was shot 1991. That's why I'm paralyzed now. And I know that learning more about myself, self-education, as well as learning about past history, things like that, that reconnected me to the community. A lot of these young men are not connected to the community and they feel separated. We have to reconnect them and show that there is a whole here. You can't think on a self-centered level. And I would just like us to consider that. That's all. I'm done. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, City Council, for allowing me to talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to address the Cunningham Town Board? Okay, we'll move on to the agenda item, which is one item, resolution number T 2021-04, and it should be -006, which is a resolution authorizing the town supervisor to execute a lease agreement with the city of Urbana for 202 Wood Street, Urbana, for the use as a solidarity garden. Danielle?
Just quickly, this was tabled from last week. But the short version of the story for both the public and the town board is that last year Cunningham Township launched a collaboration initiative with Sola Gracia Farms, Channing Murray Foundation, the Urbana Park District, the Urbana Free Library. We work with Carl and other organizations and gardens throughout the community dedicated to reducing food insecurity in Champaign-Urbana. We help to support individuals and groups to turn private and public land into gardens. We do it 1 square foot at a time. We produce thousands of pounds of groceries, of fresh produce that we distributed through Sola Gracia's mobile pantry, which is funded through Cunningham Township, as well as through the Channing Murray Foundation Bucket Brigade, which is also funded through Township. So we were able to move a lot of fresh vegetables during the pandemic at a time when folks weren't able to necessarily come to food pantries. What we learned is that there's a lot of people who, food pantries are usually not full of fresh vegetables. We'd like to resource those pantries better, and we'd like to continue to deliver to folks who can't make it to a pantry. So we're looking for additional land to expand into. We have a number of plots at Meadowbrook Garden. We have plots at Victory Garden. Thanks to the Park District, we have private plots. We even have a plot out in Monticello that has been contributing. And then of course the Township Garden, which is rented from the library. And we appreciate the library for giving that to us for $1 a year. So the city of Urbana put forward a RFP for 202 Wood Street. It is 1/3 of an acre on Wood Street. It's kind of nested between Central Avenue and Briggs Street. It's very close to a neighborhood where we have a number of participants because Homestead Apartments is close to there. That's a single resident occupancy focused on supporting formerly homeless residents. And it's we're excited to grow in that location because there's a lot of opportunities and potential to connect with the neighborhood. So we submitted that RFP as Solidarity Gardens, and the township has agreed to be the responsible party and lessee. As I said before, if Solidarity Gardens goes away, township will continue to be the responsible party. This lease is a 2-year lease. We can terminate either party, the city or township, with 90 days notice. It's $1 a year contribution, and essentially the township bears the cost of improvements to the space, including water and whatnot. We do have several donations right now of water to the property. I believe those donations will last that 2-year lease. If it looks like we're going to extend, we may consider in the future, in a future budget, doing a water installation. The estimate I was given is about $1,000, so it's not overly onerous to install water at that location. We're really excited to work with, I'm actually having a meeting with Urbana Public Arts Program coordinator and the library and the Park District on Thursday on location, if you do approve this lease, so that we can start the community-based process of talking to the neighborhood about what they would like to see. So year one is going to be very much focused on building support and doing collaborative design. There will be some level of food production, but it's a little late to get started on that. And we'll let one of the neighbors who's interested in producing food for his wedding use it for that purpose. But year two is when we'll get there in earnest. And the city is not anticipating that they will use this floodplain anytime soon. So we're hopeful that we can develop a robust community garden. Township will either continue to operate the garden, or if there is a community-based group in the neighborhood that really kind of grows up around the garden, we could also consider working with the city to transfer that lease. That would be some years out. So that's basically what we're looking at. We're just asking for, I'm asking for your approval to sign the lease that is before you. The final one was the version that I sent that's also linked off the town board website and has been there since Thursday. And there's a site plan, and the site plan frankly is pretty nondescript at this point. We're going to do a community-based design and most likely come back to the city with a updated design that they will then need to sign off on before we can, start making those. But it's a preliminary sketch that gives you a sense of what we're thinking about. Happy to take any questions you have.
Mary Alice.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Danielle. I took a look at the lease, and one of the things that I had a question about was section 8F. So section 8F is the one that says when participants may garden at their own convenience, and that starts at 5 a.m. So I was hoping that could change to 7 a.m. or there could be some addendum that says you can't use equipment before 7 a.m. just to be inconsistent with the construction hours that we have in the city.
That would be fine with us. I'm not really planning on early morning gardening. That's a time frame that the city stipulated. So if the town board wants to change that to 7, I don't think there's an issue with that. I mean, there I guess is the one that probably the reason they put it there is so that there would be time before people go to work where they could garden while there's light outside, especially in the summer. But maybe what you could consider is saying there's no electric lighting. There's actually the only thing that could make noise at this location would be gas powered because there's no electricity on location. So you could say, and let's see, actually, I'm wondering if it's handled in a different section because it also says that we have to follow all city rules. And part of the city rules is that you cannot have noise before, I believe it's 7 o'clock. Yes, so if you look at 8A, it says the township shall at all times observe and comply with all laws, ordinances, and regulations of the federal, state, county, and local governments. That would take care of actually noise before 7. But I think the thought is if somebody wanted to go out and dig before they go to work in the garden, they could do that when it's light out.
7A also mentions that too, Mary Alice. Any activity constituting a nuisance according to city code.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, it just wasn't specified in the hours of operation there. I mean, either way is fine with me if you want to keep it at 5 a.m. I do think that it might be good to have it explicit that no loud noise would occur before 7 a.m.
Would it, since the people who are using the garden are not going to be reading the lease, would it solve the concern if so I have everyone who's participating in the gardens, basically look at the rules and regulations, and I can put that in the rules of regulations since it is covered in the lease under the township ordinances, both 7A and 8A. I mean, you can add it if you want. It just means I have
No,
to
as
have
long as
additional
it's
legal
as long as
review.
the people are who are going to be working on the land are aware of those, because
Yeah.
otherwise there's a lot of things in our city code. But so I think hours of operation, at least in
Okay.
terms of what type of noise can happen before 7 a.m.
Okay, well, I can certainly include that in the orientation that we do for folks who are gardening. And that
Okay.
makes a lot of sense because I used to have that problem with my neighbor. And it did start at 5 o'clock and it was a nuisance. So I understand.
I think Scott wanted to add.
Yeah, that's a good point. And just the background on where that particular language comes from, that's in the lease for the Learman Garden. So I didn't write the Learman Garden lease, I did write this one. So I think, as Danielle described, that the idea was to get some early morning gardening in when the sun's up early. But I understand your concern, Mary Alice. I believe, my recollection is that the noise ordinance applies to stationary mechanical noise. So someone with a gas powered tiller, I'm not sure that that would apply. And so I think it may be a good idea to put something in about gas powered equipment, outside of the those particular hours. I'm perfectly happy with that.
And Danielle, I do think that having that in the orientation material for the people who are working, I think kind of solves that, because the noise ordinance certainly is a bit broader in the city, but the 7 a.m. construction is more specific. So as long as that's included in the orientation information, that addresses my concern.
Any other questions? Dennis?
Yeah, Danielle, the other concern that might be of importance would be removal of waste that's accumulating at the site. Is there going to be a garbage service? Or, I mean, I know that the organic things can be composted at the site, but, there might be lunch, wrappers and bags and things like that. Do you have something that will coordinate removal of various trash?
Well, we're responsible for mowing on location, so there'll be regular visiting of the site for that purpose. We're not allowed to put anything that is permanent structures without approval of the city, but I doubt very seriously that the city would disapprove of a trash container at that location. We would probably want to make it look pretty, but other than that,
Sure.
yes, we can take care of that. But there, we'll have regular, it isn't right next to the township, so it'll be important that we have someone going over and making sure that they're taking care of weeds and long grass, and they can also remove trash at that time.
Does that mean that you're also going to be responsible for lawn mowing around the garden edges?
Yeah, so we're responsible for mowing it. Right now, the city is responsible, and one of the things I think is in the interest of the city is to change that responsibility, give an opportunity and also offload that responsibility. And we're happy to take that on. I already have lawn mowing service and I can extend it without
great.
location.
Those requirements are outlined in 8B.
Okay, great.
Bill?
Yeah, just a couple of questions I was curious about. One is, I know it's in the floodplain. Do you know how often it floods there?
That's a Scott question.
I don't recall it being flooded there since I've been here. I don't know that we have good records on that either. I'm not sure that it floods very often at all since the Boneyard Creek improvements made upstream in Champaign.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, and then the other question, we're requiring 9 square feet for butterfly and pollinator garden out of a 16,000 square foot lot. Is there something magical about 9 square feet besides it being a square yard that we picked that number?
It's the size of a garden, raised garden bed. That's about the only reason. We just wanted to establish some minimum. They can go further. Supporting monarchs and pollinators is part of the citywide agenda and the mayor's monarch pledge.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'd encourage more. I mean, it's hardly worth doing it for 9 square feet. But if you're gonna put in some milkweed and other plants, it seems like you could probably do a little bit more than that.
Well, once you plant 9 square feet, it soon becomes more. So
Just spread them out so they can have room to grow. Spread each square foot out.
any other questions? Is that it for your questions, Bill? Okay. Any other questions? Dennis?
Oh, yeah, that brought up something else. At the Learman Garden, the people are not allowed to put in perennials, i.e. plants that come up year after year. Is that going to affect this garden as well in some of your plans?
No, that's not a constraint of this garden. And we intend to have a combination of both. We are not allowed to grow trees, but it's not our intention to grow an orchard at this location.
Okay, thanks.
Is someone ready to make a motion? Mary Alice?
I was just getting ready to make a motion. I move approval of resolution T 2021-04-006R, resolution authorizing the township supervisor to execute a lease agreement with the city of Urbana for 202 Wood Street, Urbana, for the use of a solidarity garden.
I'd like to second.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Dennis. Further discussion? Bill Colbert.
Just to comment, I think this is an excellent idea and I'd like to see more of this for our community. And also whoever hand drew your site plan, kudos to them. Because they're a pretty good artist and I could understand it from the sketches. So kudos to
That
them.
was Tracy Berkeley from Solar Gracia, and I agree. I also appreciate your confidence, and I will announce that we're looking for both volunteers and interns for the garden. So anyone who is listening or on town board who wants to get their hands dirty, looking at you, Bill. You're welcome to join us. We could really use some folks digging in this summer. So let us know if you want to participate or send some folks our way. I'm still looking for some interns.
Oh, Sharice is volunteering.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Not right now. But on that note, I was thinking about what the gentleman during public input said as far as programs for the youth. I think that if there's a way that something getting their hands dirty, putting their fingers in the dirt and learning how to grow food, that I think that would be a good internship or a good program that you might want to pick up on and actually literally teach children the fruits of their labors. So
Absolutely. Canaan Baptist Church is down the street. And I spoke to Jennifer Ivory Tatum, who's the school superintendent, whose family is also pastoring that church. And we've started that conversation because adult ed is also next to the location. So we're starting that conversation. I would love to get youth from the academy involved or other youth in the area, but certainly the youth that are right there in that neighborhood 5 days a week.
yeah, it makes it's just something that I thought about from when I first got on the city council and they had the Fresh Start program. And I know that the gentleman that was talking, I believe he's with First Followers. And I think this would be a good stepping stone as far as occupying the time and for them to actually, for people to actually be able to appreciate the hard labor that goes into producing food.
Mhm.
And not to mention, it'll also be a great biology type of lesson.
Absolutely. Yeah, well stated. And I will let the town board and the public know when we have those public input sessions that I will bring the ideas that you've brought up at that, into those sessions, and then also encourage you all to, speak up in those spaces as well, along with the community to see, what is needed and desired and how can we put legs under it.
And I will let you know that Mayor Finan and I met with Representative Ammons this afternoon, and there may be funding available for supporting youth working in things like this garden and other summer programs as well. So
that's great. Yes,
So
send me some more information. Thank you.
it might all come together. So. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Sachs,
Yes.
Ms. Hersey,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Colebrook,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
That motion passes. And with no further business before the Cunningham Town Board, I will adjourn that meeting